would you stand? All right, here's what I mean by that. There's this competition. It's now defunct. It does not exist anymore, but there was a competition called Hands on a Hard Body Truck. The hard body truck, a hard shell truck, and you had to keep a hand on the truck. You entered the contest, and they pulled 12 names, 20 names out, and these 20 people got to put their hand on a truck. The person who kept their hand on the truck the longest won the truck. All you had to do was stand. That's all you had to do. Now, this is this documentary is older than all of you students in the room. It's like something I watched when I was in college, but it's Quentin Tarantino calls it a documentary you must all watch, okay? So if you want the link to the video later, I can show it to you because it's really kind of hard to find. But this is called a documentary called Hands on a Hard Body, and this is a short clip I'm going to show you here in a moment. But they could, just watch the clip, and I'll explain the rules of the contest in a moment, but take a look.
Coming up Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., they'll gather around a brand new, good-looking 1995 Nissan hardbody truck, and they'll stand there as long as they can. And the last one remaining wins that beautiful truck.
When it gets down to the last two, that's when it gets really tough, because he's got most of his friends and family there. Most of your friends and family are there. And then you've got fans, and everybody's rooting for somebody, you know. And if you look over here, either the friends and family and fans of this other person, you know, they're looking at you like, okay, you need to quit, you know. Well, if you're looking better than this other person, they're really upset with you, and you can see it. And it deals with you. It really works on you. And you say, hey man, I don't deserve that, you know. And then you get to thinking about, well, hey, you know, all these people are up here, and don't they realize that we're suffering, that we're hurting? And, you know, you feel like they're kind of bloodthirsty in a way. And, I mean, they're there to see this spectacle, and it seems so absurd, very absurd. And you have to realize later, hey, you know, it's a human drama thing, and it's more than just a contest, and it's more than just winning the truck.
Benny Perkins won this contest by standing on a hard-body truck for 87 hours with one hand on the truck. You get a 5-minute break every hour. You get a 15-minute break every 6 hours. So you got to, like, no one can interact with you. You're like your pit crew has 5 minutes to, like, get you a snack and help you use the bathroom, but you got to be back on the truck right away after your 5-minute timer's up. And people start, like, you heard what Benny said there. He's like, they're really upset with you, and you can see. I'm going to try my southern accent because the Texas competition. Benny says they're really upset with you, and you can see it, and it deals with you. I don't talk like that. I might try talking like that. And it works on you, and you say, hey, man, I don't deserve that. Don't they realize that we're suffering, that we're hurting? And this is the line that kills me. You feel like they're bloodthirsty in a way. So these guys are just putting their hands on a truck. And for Benny Perkins, who's won this contest before and somehow has luckily had his name drawn again, and you might get to win it again, is he feels like it's a bloodthirsty sport, standing, you know. Now, it's a competition. It's stressful. It is a 90-minute documentary. It's worth every minute to watch this documentary because it's just filled with the right personalities. People start to, like, it's just real, and you just people are really competing for something, and it starts to, like, you start to root for different people. It's like has these survivor feels to it, where you start to root for a person to win, and you start rooting against other people that are villains, and it's just a great film. And so here's why I show that clip is because we've been in this series called Wired. Wired, talking about how we are wired for things. And what I want to suggest tonight is that we're wired for something that's kind of odd to be wired for, and that is stress. We're actually wired for stress, to handle stress, not too much stress. Too much stress can, like, break you, and that's okay if it breaks you because you can learn how to handle that stress better. But the people in this competition, like, they crumble at some point just because they're standing, and they're like, you can't, like, you have to keep one hand on the truck, and they just crumble, and it defeats their body. It just can't take the standing anymore. It makes sense. After 87 hours, who could keep standing? Like, that's an insane amount of time to stand. But it's stressful. It's wearing on them. Last week, if you were here, we've throughout the series been looking at our Enneagram profiles, which is just one way to kind of learn about yourself and how you're wired. By the way, like, you just keep learning about yourself for the rest of life. And, like, it's like you're a puzzle. And when you were born, like, all the puzzle pieces got dumped out, and you start to, the first step in making a puzzle is like turning over the pieces. And Enneagram might be like one of the pieces that you just turn over to figure out, here's how I'm wired. And as you grow into the adulthood, you start to realize, oh, this is how I'm wired. And the adults in the room, we're still learning about ourselves. So I don't want you to feel like you're pigeonholed because of a number you got on an assessment 3 weeks ago. But we've been using this tool just to say, what is it about us that God has made unique? Last week, Brad talked about how we're hardwired for community. And today, hardwired for stress. And I hope you all leave here with a way to handle your stress that's unique to you, because each one of you handles stress differently, depending on your personality, your extrovertedness, your Enneagram number, kind of all those things. And that's good to figure out, because stress is coming for each one of us, and how you handle it is really important. Now, it's not all bad. Stress is not all bad. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. I don't know that we should go looking for stressful situations, if stress is not always bad. But some level of stress is normal. Like right now, there's a certain amount of stress that you're carrying. I don't know if it's a high stress moment in your semester, or if it's low. Finals are, here a month or so away. There's you can probably see, the stress just increased a little bit when I said that F word. But here's the deal. Here's what I learned. I was reading about some of our highest elite soldiers, Navy SEAL soldiers. And here's something that a commander of the Navy SEAL training program said. He said, the leadership team designs situations for our SEAL soldiers that are exponentially more stressful. That's not like slightly more stressful. That's like, we're going to turn it up. We're going to turn it way up on these soldiers so they experience high stress. And here's what they do. They experience exponentially more stressful, chaotic, and dynamic situations more than any combat situation that they're going to face in the field, so that the teams learn to center themselves in the most arduous circumstances. And when the stress of training seems unbearable, we can own it, knowing that ultimately it is what we have chosen to do, to be a member of a team that can succeed in any mission. There's a reason I never went to boot camp, or never did SEAL training. I couldn't handle that. That would be too much. But isn't that fascinating that they put them through incredibly stressful situations that they'll never see again on the battlefield, is kind of what the team says. It just messes with my brain to think about that. Now, I had a stressful semester in college multiple times. I remember one semester I took 19 hours, which was 19 engineering hours, and that's not the same as 14 accounting hours, not throwing rocks at accounting majors, but I stayed up all night to do homework, and my accounting friends were playing video games sometimes. I was like, oh, I'm so jealous of what they get to have and what I'm doing here. But there was a class called DiffEQ, differential equations. It was one of the weed out classes. Engineering majors start like this freshman year, and sophomore year they go like this, the number of engineering majors, and junior year they go like this. And junior year, that doesn't change from junior to senior year necessarily, because you're that much invested. You're like, I'm 3/4 the way through. I got to finish. There's the kind of the trick your mind plays on you, right or wrong. But DiffEQ was one of the weed out classes, which means that this took the freshman engineering class and made it this when they took DiffEQ. Or usually it wasn't until your sophomore year. Maybe some of you in high school have had it, because you have to have had Calc 1, 2, and some elements of 3 to do differential equations. Now, differential equations, here's a note. I kept this because it was like a medal for me that I finished DiffEQ. This is a picture coming up here. There's just a notebook page. This is notes for my DiffEQ class. And differential equations has no numbers at some point. You're doing math, and there are no more numbers involved. And this is one page of a 3-page problem. One problem took me 3 pages and 4 hours to do. And I was at my breaking point. I needed other people that we were doing this class with to understand what was going on here. I don't remember much of that. There's some engineers in the room that could help us understand that. But that's like been erased from my memory because I'm not an engineer, I'm a pastor. But differential equations was really hard. And I remember getting to this moment where the stress was doing this, climbing up as the semester went on, exams were coming. And my mom is not like a super maternal, like huggy, oh, come here, baby, kind of figure. But I found myself in Tulsa, where I was in college, calling my mom. And we had like this, I remember where I was. It was this building that looked like a triangle. And there was like this kind of flame, like eternal flame kind of thing at each corner. It was kind of a cool campus, a place just to kind of, you could sit and be quiet. And I remember going there and just like despondent, like I'm screwed. Like, I don't understand this. I don't know what is going on in this class on top of the 2 other engineering classes that I'm taking right now. And I called my mom, who I should not seek for comfort. You know, maybe your mom is, my mom is not. She's like, but I found myself calling my mom, and I just remember like telling her, she always asked what I ate first. That's what Indian moms do. They want to know what you ate. And so I told her what I ate, and then I was like, at some point I shared my problem, which is really weird to me because I never would have done that. In high school, never would have shared my problems with my mom. And I'm like crying on the phone in this desolate like place, no one's around me, and I'm just like, and she said something that gave me comfort. I don't remember what it was. I just remember the moment calling home, crying as a junior in college, trying to figure out what I was going to do to get out of this class. And it helped. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to have a coping strategy tonight, whether it's a phone call to mom or whether it's a conversation with a friend. I want you to learn something about yourself that says, that's what I need to do when the stress is coming, when it's happening. I want to be able to notice it, and I want to be able to do something about it. We're going to look at 2 things from the scriptures tonight. Jesus has some advice for people who are stressed out. Jesus' half-brother, Jesus had siblings, right? And his half-brother James gave us some advice about these kinds of moments too. So we're going to do that, but I want to read you this quote from Teddy Roosevelt first because it speaks to some of the trials that happen in our lives and how they're not always bad for us. Here's what Teddy Roosevelt said. Nothing in the world is worth having or worth doing unless it means effort, pain, or difficulty. I have never in my life envied a human being who led an easy life. I have envied a great many people who led difficult lives and led them well. And none of us seek difficult lives, but it's fascinating to think about that. I also don't want to experience a blah life. I don't want to experience something that's boring. I want to experience invigorating circumstances, but what I do know is that to experience some highs, you have to go through some challenge. Anything worth doing is hard work. I think that's what Teddy's getting at in that quote. So the 2 passages we're going to look at tonight talk about some of that, like how stress is not bad. I want us to maybe change our minds about stress so that you don't put yourself in, when you get to your point where it's too much stress and then you know what to do with it. I was talking to one of you guys last week. You're like, yeah, it was stressful. I was like, how'd you get through it? I don't know. I just did. I think sometimes we know what to do and we instinctively do it, and then sometimes we don't know what to do, and that's what I hope you leave here with tonight. So here's what Jesus says. Jesus is talking to people that are stressed out. Their stress came from living under Roman rule, oppression. They didn't like that. It also came from living under a lot of rules. People who were pastors back then gave their people lots of rules to follow, rules that were not necessarily important rules, but they were rules that they were expected to follow. And Jesus saw this. He saw how people were being treated, people were being taught to live, and he saw that these were people who are harassed. They're like sheep without a shepherd, and it didn't sit well with Jesus. Jesus hurt for the stressed out people that he saw. And they didn't have a good leader who genuinely cared for them. You know that teacher, you've had a teacher or coach that you could tell they cared about you as a person more than the layup or more than the project. You could just tell they cared about how you were doing. I think these people are sometimes few in our lives where we notice that they wanted us to they cared for who we were and what we cranked out. But we also know leaders and teachers and coaches who just cared about what you did. Did you perform? And that gets kind of hard to deal with. And Jesus was looking at people like that, and he said to them this, "Come to me, all you who are weary," which just means tired, "and those who carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you." We'll talk about what the word yoke there means in a moment. Jesus knows, though, that we're stressed out by life, and he wants you to know that he's gentle. He's not going to be heavy-handed, and he's humble in heart. This next verse is going to talk about this. Here's what it says in the next verse. Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." Jesus is not like a burden giver. Like he doesn't heap more on your shoulders, but he's actually a burden taker, and he gives, if there's any burden Jesus gives, he wants you to know one thing. It's light. It's not going to be heavy to carry. It's not this pack that's going to weigh you down, but it's going to be a light burden. Now, yoke is not something we use, but they were farmers and people who knew animals, and so this is a yoke, a picture of a yoke. And the point of a yoke is to hold two animals together, because two animals could do more work than one animal could. They could plow more ground, and so two animals were yoked together, you know? And some of the yokes were heavy pieces of equipment. And Jesus just says, my yoke is not a hard yoke. Like, my yoke is easy. Which just, I love the word easy. It's like, easy? I like things that are easy, you know. And this is describing work, right? These animals are doing work, and so a yoke that's easy would mean that the work is going to maybe not be simple, but it's going to be with ease. And I think that's what Jesus wants us to experience as we follow him. It's like, you can do this with ease, because my yoke is not a difficult yoke. It's an easy yoke. It's really good for me to hear the person who I've built my life around say, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Because I don't want to follow if it's going to be something that crushes me, because I got enough other stuff crushing me, you know? There's enough other forces in life that take their toll on me, but I need the most important person in my life to be the person who's with me, giving me an easy yoke and a light burden. Jesus is humble. He's going to put your needs above his. That's what we see over and over. Jesus puts our needs above his, and he's able to carry us through the hardest, toughest, meanest situations. So I just want you to have your mind changed about Jesus tonight, so that you could see him. I don't know what you think of when you think of Jesus, if you think of taskmaster, if you think of like somebody who's harsh, but I just want you to consider, could he be gentle and humble in heart with me? Could that be my relationship with Jesus? Could he be gentle? Because it's true. Here's that Teddy Roosevelt quote when he says, it's really admirable when someone handles a difficult situation well. I think that's true. I admire people who handle difficult things. If you were here this last Sunday, our pastor, one of our lead pastors, Dan Jacobson, has a son going through a diagnosis of a tumor, and it was like, he's handling it so well. I'm just like admiring the hard situation that they're in. That's a hard situation. I wanted to have fun with a lighter situation. So I need Chloe and Davis. Can I borrow you guys for a minute for this illustration? I got an exercise band here, and Chloe and Davis are going to help me by making a point, prove a point. So we've not practiced this. We never practiced this one. We had to practice this. So stress could be seen as, let's have you hold this end. Oh, I'm going to hold this end. You're going to be in the middle. Yep. So Chloe and I, for example, this is a modicum amount of stress. So let's try to launch that cupcake with the level of tension that we're putting on this exercise band right now. Oh boy, it's just a Hostess cupcake. Okay. Now, we're going to take 3 steps that way. 1, 2, 3. And now, notice what we've changed. The variable we've changed is the tension in the exercise band. And the tension in the exercise band has done something to its effectiveness. This is pretty technical for Davis to do. Hey, Davis, let's hit this side up and then this side up with a cupcake. Can we aim? Oh, we didn't even try this. This is like a t-shirt cannon, except with Hostess cupcakes. I almost bought Twinkies, but who likes Twinkies? Twinkies are terrible. Bottom 5. They're terrible. Yeah. All right, now let's go this side. Maybe if you freeze a Twinkie, maybe then it's okay, but no. A deep fried Twinkie I've never had, so you might have to go to Texas to. No, I haven't. All right, here we go. Oh, that's all right. All right, hey, thank you. All right, hey, now, Davis, will you hold that end, and we're gonna keep stepping. Stress is good. Keep stepping that way. Stress is good, but then eventually, look that way. Eventually, you'll get to a point where the stress will maybe, help. Wow, you're really out there. Okay, keep going, Davis. If we could launch a cupcake to the moon right now. Oh! Oh my goodness, that was invigorating. We just did something really challenging, and I feel like, do it again? I think do one rap like that so you get a little. We're going to break this. We're going to break it. Come on, go. Let's go. Let's just break it. Oh! Hey, we did it. This exercise band could not stand up to the strength of two men. Two people. That's not a sexist comment. No. No. Did not mean that like that. But, hey, stress can break you. Like, there's moments where we have a reaction to stress. It's too much, and we need to the tear ducts activated outside of that Tulsa University, and I was like, this is breaking me. I'm gonna be okay because I'm gonna reach out for help, and I'm gonna finish the semester and do okay. But sometimes stress can do that. Now, here's the healthy benefits of stress. You saw we could launch the cupcake a little bit further when it was taut, there was more tension there. Here's 3 things stress can do. It can keep you focused. Stress actually can keep you focused. You're like, I got to prioritize what I need to do here, and this stressful season is helping me focus on what's important right now. That's one way stress can help you. Another way is it can help you connect with others. You reach out to other people naturally, and sometimes because you're told to, or because you just realize I have to talk to someone about this stress. We weren't meant to carry stress alone. We're made to share those stressors with others, and they with you. You should be hearing the things your friends are stressed about, and vice versa. And then the last thing stress can do, among many things, is it can help you build strength and grow. This is actually true in the metal making world. We stress out certain metals so that they get stronger. Here's a 3-step process. It's called transformation hardening, because you take a metal, and here's the 3 steps. First step, you heat the metal to a critical temperature, and it literally changes the molecular structure of the metal when you heat it up. I know you may be in chemistry and understand that. It's surprising to me. It changes the metal's molecular structure. Second, then you cool it. So you take that same metal that you've heated up that's now changed molecularly, and you cool it. And what that does is it prevents other materials from forming in the process when you cool it quickly, like other things that will weaken it. They know how to quickly cool a metal they've just heated up and cool it in such a way that it doesn't allow other impurities to make it weaker. So this is incredibly scientific and fascinating process. Thirdly, you go back to heat. And here's how hot, 400 to 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on the metal. And this step, reheating it, reduces the brittleness. Brittle meaning it just breaks. You don't want your metals to break. And so they now heat it up again, and this is a transformation hardening process that helps this metal get really strong. It sounds like magic that this could happen, but this is just what goes on. It's not fun for the metal. If metal had a personality, it's not fun. But here's the process I want you to feel is that it's not fun for us to go through these transformational moments where things get really hot and cold and hot. It feels like your molecular structure is being changed, and that's not fun necessarily to enter into that process. But James, here's the half-brother of Jesus, who I just picture having a front row seat to Jesus' life. He sees everything Jesus does, and here's what James writes to the church. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." When trouble of any kind comes your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. That's not what this this person does. I don't like welcome troubles and say, yay. But I think joy is different than yay. I think joy is like all right. Actually, Dan Jacobson said this. This is 2 weeks ago. I forget. It was in a video that went out to leaders, so maybe you got it. You probably did get it. But he just said, we got this like thing that we don't know about, and the phrase he used, golly, I'm going to forget it now. We put this tumor on notice. And I just heard that phrase, and I was like, holy smokes. I was like, what that means, if you don't know that phrase, put this person on notice means I'm coming for you. And it was just like, oh, holy smokes. The Jacobsons, like this army of people that are like praying with them, just put this tumor on notice. I would insert some more words there to make it more colorful, because that's what it like makes me feel. It's like you're going down, tumor. It's just this like moment of like, wow, that's maybe the joy, more than like this. It's like you take your best shot, because I'm going to beat you. That's fascinating to me. That's an incredible posture to have to trials and circumstances, not one that like is just like easily, you're able to muster up easily, but it takes like a depth of character to be able to do that. And it's just a surprising way to deal with trials, right? Now, if you can find the right ways to manage stress, it can actually help develop you, and we can get stronger because of those stressful situations. So since we've been in the Enneagram, I'm going to give you 9 ways that each of the types can handle stress here in just a moment. But here's some just for everyone ways. I got a few strategies here. Sleep well, exercise, talk it out. For example, I got to run 3 times a week. If I don't run 3 times a week, I'm a grouchy dude. Or like exercise 3 times a week at a minimum. I just know I got to do that. Something about that helps me like function better in society. I'm like, it's just for me, that's true. Now, for you, make time for fun and quiet, get outside, write about it, learn mindfulness. There's lots of ways that tools out there for that. Headspace, a great app. There's all sorts of things to work on mindfulness. If you're an Enneagram number type, I'm going to give you those here in just a moment. If you're a 1, the ones. Any ones in the room? We have 2 ones. There's one. There's another one. Oh, Evan, you're 1? Right on. You took the test. Yeah. I love it. Ones, here's the deal. Ones, be vulnerable when you're stressed out. Tell somebody. Like, you want to be perfect, but let your imperfection kind of show. It'll make you human. It'll make you feel good being vulnerable. It'll be really hard, but be vulnerable. 2s, I'm a 2. Do something for yourself, like you would do for a friend. I often say this to myself, like, hey, treat yourself like you treat others. Like, seriously. Like, be kind to yourself. Like, if you're a 2 in the room, it's easy to help everyone else and not help yourself. Like, be kind to yourself. These could be true for everyone, but specifically 1s and 2s. Those are things that are just important ways to handle stress. 3s, when you're stressed out, 3s are achievers. And here's a question you can ask yourself. What do you actually have to do? Like, what can wait, and what do you actually have to do? Don't try to do everything. That's just going to create more stress, but kind of prioritize, do that. Let the stress focus your energy. 4s. 4s are feelers and have a lot of emotions, ups and downs. 4s, not everything has to be an up and down. Here's the advice for 4s. Do ordinary tasks. Don't need the big high or the big low, but like the ordinary, like a simple walk in the park is a really good, beautiful thing to do. The roll your laundry instead of, have you rolled your laundry? I didn't know this till like this year. Like you roll your laundry and you put your t-shirts in your drawer, they're like easy to grab, and it actually makes folding laundry fun. Folding laundry is one of, like next to eating Twinkies, folding laundry is like right here. But sorry, Ren. Ren says deep fried Twinkies are good, and I've never had one, so I'm willing to, I haven't been to a county fair, no. Yeah. All right, 5s. 5s are investigators, like they know a lot. 5s, you do not have to have the answer to everything. You can feel like that's true, but you don't have to have the answer. So in a stressful season of life, don't feel like you have to figure everything out. That's your propensity, but don't feel like you have to figure everything out. 6s, the loyalist personality. 6s are thinkers, overdrive. Their brains are in overdrive. I'm married to a 6, and she thinks a lot. Like, can't stop thinking, can't sleep. I sleep really easy, but my wife, who's a 6, Anna, she does not sleep easily until like the brain is finished thinking, which can be hard. And so practice mindfulness when you're stressed. Soundtracks, a great book by John Acuff, To Stop Overthinking. Work on ways to offload the thinking, you know, because that's probably what's stressing you out. Sevens are, where are my sevens? Yeah. Sevens are like the fun people who like to live in the moment, or don't like to live in the moment because they're always looking for what's exciting next. Your advice when you're stressed out, which is maybe, I don't know how often sevens get stressed out. I'm sure you experience stress like the rest of us. Be present and just be here now. It's like, don't be fidgety, but just like try to be here now, because that's all you have. This moment right now. Try to be present in that moment. Eights have the lowest emotional index score, which means emotions are maybe harder to tap for eights. That's okay. And they're get into the practice of noticing when you are trying to buckle down and power through, and then consider other options. So don't try to like just force everything when you're stressed. Try to take a step back, take a glimpse of everything that's happening, and then make your way forward. Being vulnerable, also really helpful for eights. If you can share that you're stressed with someone, that's a big deal. Nines are peacemakers. People look at who like really want everyone to be lined up and feel together. Be upfront with a friend that you're looking for, that you're not looking for advice. You just need a space to vent, for example. So if you're stressed with someone, or stressed with a situation, just pull a friend aside and say, hey, I don't need any advice. I don't need to fix anything. I just need to like vent right now. And that will help you in your stressed out moment. So here's the deal. You're in your small group time. We have a stress test for you. No, we're not going to like hook you up to a treadmill. It's not that kind of stress test. But there's just a questionnaire. It's got point values associated with different life events. For example, the top of the list, 100 points is if a parent dies. That's 100 points. There's like everything between 100 and like 5 or 10, you know? And you're just by yourself when you get to small group time. Like a job transition is on there, and it's worth like 30 points, for example. We're going to ask you to take this little test, 5 minutes, just for your own assessment. And it's going to, when you add up those numbers, it's going to tell you how stressed you are. And there's, on the flip side of the activity, there's like different buckets, like, hey, this is kind of high stress. You may not have known it. Here's what you might be experiencing, or low stress, or everything in between. There's 3 or 4 kind of buckets that your score might fit into. Here's what I want you to do when you get that number. I want you to say, okay, I didn't know that about myself, or maybe that's spot on. That's the level of stress I'm experiencing right now. What do I do with that? What coping strategy did I hear tonight that might help me? It might have been another strategy for another Enneagram number, but whatever feels like something you could do with that stress number tonight. Your leaders will love to hear that and talk with you about those things. Let me pray for us, and then we'll send you to your small group time. God, thanks for each person in here. You wired us for stress, and you gave us ways to deal with that stress. And so would it mature us? Would it strengthen us? Would it be something that helps us grow stronger? And would we share that stress with the right people that can help us navigate that stress? Thank you for the leaders and the students in the room. And Jesus, thank you for being a gentle and humble leader who gives us an easy yoke in this life, and not a heavy burden, but you give us a light burden. In your name, Jesus, amen.